Welcome everybody, this is SharePoint Patterns and Practices webcast, and this time we're not going to actually deep dive on the code samples and having a look on Visual Studio Code or how to do development. We rather wanted to have this kind of a general webcast which is walking through all of the individual assets and resources and documentation what we have on the SharePoint framework, so that whenever you are starting to adapt the SharePoint framework within your development for SharePoint Online, you know where to get started, what are the assets available for you to learn the stuff and take advantage. With me today, so first of all, my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a Senior Program Manager from SharePoint Engineering, and with me today is our MVP Star, Waldek. Will you do the quick intros as well?
Sure. Hi everybody, my name is Waldek Mastikas. I work at Rancor and I am Office Development MVP, and today we'll talk about getting started with SharePoint Framework development.
Excellent. So your title today is a dev dude, but essentially we're not going to actually do live demos within this video. So if you're waiting for that one, have a look on the following video or the previous video.
This is not your webcast.
Yeah, exactly. This is not the webcast what you're looking for. But we actually did this kind of a webcast in the really early stages of the SharePoint framework. So immediately after the May 4th event back in 2016, where we explained the resources and what is the SharePoint framework. So now that we have a lot of assets available, a lot of stuff available for you to consume, let's do a refresh on this stuff. Now, before we actually have a look on the live assets and what's available and the URLs, just quickly explaining for those who might have been watching this SharePoint PMP stuff first time. SharePoint Patterns and Practices is a SharePoint Engineering owned initiative where we work together with community like MVPs and external people, where we provide guidance, code samples, case studies. We have community calls, and the areas are on the SharePoint framework, SharePoint add-in, Microsoft Graph, Office 365 APIs. Some of those are absolutely valid for on-premises as well, and then obviously SharePoint Online is the key, one of the key concentration areas. AKMS, SharePoint PMP is the one address to remember. From there you can actually find a lot of the code samples which we're going to cover today as well. Now, let's get on to the individual, the actual topic. So what are the key URLs and key assets, what we have available, and what are we actually planning to do with SharePoint Framework as well? So quickly touching two different areas on the webcast. First of all, I really want to make sure that you are aware of the new developer landing page for SharePoint, which is the dev.ops.com/SharePoint. So if you're looking in the development guidance, if you're looking latest on the development documentation, for example, for SharePoint Framework, it's not in MSDN. It is actually in the dev.ops.com/SharePoint. We are actually looking kind of shuffling all of this stuff slightly later. But if you remember this URL, there will be redirections, everything else will work, and you'll find the latest documentation and guidance for SharePoint Framework and adding model as well. So dev.ops.com/SharePoint, dev.ops.com/SharePoint. Easy URL to remember. Now, before we actually start going to the individual URLs, and let's have a live demo walking through what we have available, just quickly explaining what the SharePoint framework is all about with a few slides. You might have seen these slides before, but just reinforcing the message. So the SharePoint extensibility. In the future, what we want to do with SharePoint extensibility is that we want to align the first-party and the third-party development experience. And it might sound kind of, okay, what does it actually mean? Well, it means that the people in Redmond who are Microsoft engineers developing, for example, out-of-the-box client-side web parts, will use the exact same tooling, exact same APIs when they're doing their development, which will be then exposed to you as well. So we will not have any kind of a specific tricks or hidden APIs and all of that stuff for internal development. It's all available for you to consume as a third-party developer as well. Basically what it means is that you're able to, if we have a look on any of the modern web parts available within a SharePoint Online, you can actually build exactly the same stuff by yourself. And that's going to obviously help on us to provide you the guidance and also for you to provide us the guidance. So we will benefit out of it together. We're looking into obviously building industry-leading client-side solutions for on-premises and cloud. And this is a really important thing to realize. Now, SharePoint Framework is going to go live first in SharePoint Online within early 2017. And then we're looking into shipping the SharePoint Framework to on-premises as well. The target is SharePoint 2016 and during the calendar year of 2017. And the whole point is that essentially you can use the exact same development model in the SharePoint Online or in the on-premises, which will then help from a customization reusability perspective as well. And kind of a fun final topic and bullet point on the slide is also the fact that we want to make sure that you as a SharePoint developer, you can easily access all of the additional goodness what we have in the SharePoint Online, like the Microsoft and Office 365, like the Microsoft Graph. And what it means is that you're able to use the individual persona as a endpoint to access the information around the persona itself. As an example, you can easily access the contacts or emails or calendar entries or create calendar entries or follow up on the recent documents or the trending documents inside around the individual person, or create groups and so on. So in the past, SharePoint, due historical reasons, have been having kind of a challenges of calling, for example, Microsoft Graph endpoints. And we're looking into getting that one completely unblocked. So as a developer, you have access on all of the goodness of the modern APIs as well. And obviously in the desktop and in any device. The mobile and any device thinking is a really big part of the SharePoint framework as well. So all of these customizations, what we will provide natively within Microsoft and what you will implement on top of SharePoint Framework will natively scale to any device as long as you're following up our guidance. And they will be available, for example, in the SharePoint mobile app as well. And that's a super, super cool thing because in the past that has not been possible. Now, if we think about the SharePoint framework, just kind of quickly touch the key points on this one. Kind of I went through some of these already in the previous slide, but really this is all about the modern client side development. And for some, that might be a scary statement. What does it actually mean? What is modern? If you have been doing modern web stack development, this isn't actually anything new. If you've been doing a web stack development and a modern web development outside of the SharePoint world, we are essentially aligning the SharePoint development to that model. If you are, however, more kind of a classic SharePoint developer coming from a farm solution side, like me personally, and then adding model and then gradually learning the new stuff, it's a new way of doing development. But it actually isn't that hard. The easiest way to actually adapt this is just accept that, yeah, it will take a while for me to learn this, but then whenever you get your hands dirty, it's not a problem. You can set up your development environment within 15 minutes, just install a few things and get started on development. So there is no doubt a small learning curve, but you can easily get adapted on that one. The SharePoint framework is meant to be, and it is lightweight web and mobile, so it's actually scaling, it's fully responsive natively, and it's lightweight as well. So you're not downloading massive amount of HTMLs and JavaScript files and everything else. If, for example, like we used to do in the old UIs of SharePoint, the classic UIs of SharePoint. Powers your own experiences, and the whole point is that you can actually do, you have flexibility to do customizations using the SharePoint framework. Now, in the first release of the SharePoint framework, we only support client-side web parts. We are, however, looking into enabling additional extensibility points. And quite often at this point when we mention this, there's always somebody saying, yeah, but why don't you release all of that additional goodness already today? Well, it just takes time to get all of the stuff ready, because even though we're Microsoft, we do not have infinite resources. So we need to prioritize our tasks for the engineers as well. SharePoint Framework is backward compatible, so whenever we are in future releasing a new versions, we'll make sure that everything is working properly in SharePoint Online or in the future in on-premises, and it supports open source tools and JavaScript web frameworks, which is one of the areas which seems to be freaking some people out. It's like, no, what does it mean? Why is Microsoft open source? Well, that's where the industry is actually heading. And to be fair, Microsoft is the most and the biggest company, for example, in a GitHub, sharing the most repos and most source control. So it's not like we are planning to be open source. We actually been open source for quite a long time. But it might have been that the audience and people outside of Microsoft hadn't seen this transition, which has been going through inside of Microsoft. And then on the right side, it's just obviously there's some scalability or showing the responsiveness, the same UI in a device, in an iPhone, and then in a browser. And the key point is that within the SharePoint framework, like mentioned in the previous slide, you can easily access Microsoft Graph endpoints and then LOB systems and cloud services. So in the past, it has been actually quite difficult for an add-in to integrate natively, for example, with the custom web API. In the future, that's going to be much more easier, and that's going to open up massive amount of additional scenarios as well.
The one thing that I wanted to ask you about is that since a while there is an app available that allows you to open your intranet in an app on the phone, right? So will the web parts that we will build, will they be also available in the app, in the site that you can view in the app?
Yes, that is absolutely the whole idea of the SharePoint framework. So your add-ins, or well, I wouldn't call them add-ins in this context, I would call them SharePoint apps, SharePoint framework customizations. They will be then included in that UIs as well. So they will be essentially rendered in the UI. We're in the journey of making all of this happen, and obviously it's going to get better and better all the time while we are within this journey.
Another thing that I wanted to ask is because here you talk about the modern sites, so modern team sites and experiences. What if I have a big intranet on which I would want to reuse the new investments that I built? So imagine I would build new web part, and then I would like to add that on an existing site. Can I do it or not?
Absolutely a great question, which should have actually tackled in the intro as well. But the classic pages will support the modern web parts as well. So you can absolutely, within the classic team sites and classic SharePoint online sites or on-premises sites, you can use the modern client-side web parts as an example as well. And that applies for client-side web parts. Now, we're looking into releasing additional things, and we're working on then on the details, which of them will be available within the classic views and which of them will be only available within the modern views. But for the client-side web parts, they are working within the classic UI as well. So not just the modern UI.
So actually, to recap, they are for new and old. They work anywhere in browser, tablet, and on your phone, and also in the app, and you can build them anywhere you want, right? Because they are based on the web stack.
Correct.
Which is great news for all developers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things which we've been kind of mentioning always in this webcast as well, that yes, there is a learning curve, we absolutely get that, but after you've gone through that learning curve, you are no longer just a SharePoint developer. The same web stack's tooling, the same web stack development methods, using the same frameworks, Angular and React and everything else. That's what the other services are doing as well. So you're no longer kind of limited on a SharePoint as a platform. Obviously, SharePoint is a great platform. We want people to use the SharePoint, but you as a developer, you actually get more options in the future as well. So if you help or you are being asked to help with some non-SharePoint projects, you can actually step in and you are well aware of what does it actually mean. And I would say that that's a brilliant point from a learning perspective.
And I guess that the benefits that you get, meaning that it runs everywhere, you build it once, and exactly the same code works everywhere, it makes actually the effort of learning new stuff totally worth it, right? Because you will be able to build solutions that reach more users more easily, right? True. You build things once and they work everywhere.
Absolutely.
And also for new sites, old sites, on all devices. So that's definitely worth the effort.
Yep, absolutely. So whenever we get the SharePoint framework to SharePoint 2016, then it will be on-premises, SharePoint Online, classic pages, the modern pages. It's a one implementation. It's a modern web part, which has a lot of benefits, additional benefits. It's scalable, it's responsive, there's no iframe. There's this massive amount of opportunities there. So it's a great story and a great way and the direction where we're heading with SharePoint. So super excited, at least personally, around this transition.
Woo!
Ooh, brilliant. Good. Now, obviously, we understand that people need to learn how to do all of this development, and for that, we provide a lot of resources. There's a lot of documentations and sample. We do acknowledge the fact that hey, there's almost too many locations where people can actually find this, and we do have plans to address that. So let's go through what we have, what's where, what's available from a URL perspective, and let's talk about the future of these pages as well. So let me flip to my browser, and I actually intentionally wanted to start from MSDN because quite often if you're let's say a SharePoint developer, people always consider that the MSDN is the location where the information is available. Well, that's going to be slightly changed in the future. We do have some technical challenges with MSDN, so we're in the transition of moving some of the content from MSDN to a newer platform, and that's going to modernize the experience as well. Now, if you are looking in the SharePoint development in MSDN, you'll land actually on this page. This is the SharePoint General Development page, which has been already updated to have right links related on SharePoint Developer Home, and I'll get back on that one in a second. Also, SharePoint Framework links, topics around SharePoint add-ins, references around the SharePoint Framework as well, code samples, and also our support and social media information. Now, if you're looking anything modern, and this applies to SharePoint add-ins quite soon, because the add-in content is going to be moved to the dev.office.com quite soon as well. Well, depending on the timing when you're watching the video, obviously. The location where we want to go is dev.office.com/SharePoint. So this is the single page where we will have all of the information related on SharePoint development. It doesn't matter if it's SharePoint Framework, is it an adding model, is it a farm development, on-premises, SharePoint Online. Right now, this is still a kind of a rough UI. We are working on a new UI, and by the time we're watching the video, we might have actually flipped the UI already. In here, we're obviously promoting the SharePoint framework for the time being. If we scroll down, we can actually see other resources as well. So develop more with SharePoint, user experiences, content, and APIs. And these are linking to all of the resources what we have available, including the on-premises, best practices, videos, and all of that. So one location for all of the SharePoint development resources, which is great. Now, let's concentrate slightly more specifically on the SharePoint framework. So if we actually get started on SharePoint framework, we'll land on the SharePoint framework documentation in the dev.office.com. One of the things what we've done with the new documentation is that it's all coming actually from GitHub. So if you find an issue, if you want to send a suggestion and change for all of some of the pages, or maybe even a new article, you can actually do that. So we can actually edit the item in a GitHub, and you can submit a pull request and modify the settings. In here, you actually find already a lot of content around the SharePoint framework. So we have the overview, we have the tools and libraries, and these are evolving on a daily basis, where we explain, for example, Node.js and Gulp, Task Runner, what is a Webpack, and so on. And obviously, we are then referencing the actual documentation of those tools as well. We're also telling how to set up an Office 365 tenant or the development environment. So what are the things what you need to actually set up within your box? What is the SharePoint framework tool chain, slightly more detailed. And now, as the first part of the SharePoint framework, we're releasing the client-side web parts. So for client-side web parts, we have a specific section explaining what they are, why we're doing that, and a great tutorials for getting started. So if I go here, there's a 5-step tutorial which is actually helping and showing how to get started on creating stuff on the SharePoint framework, creating a web part, connecting that web part, client-side web part to the SharePoint, deploying that to the SharePoint Classic pages or modern pages, and how would I actually package that to be used in production usage as well. So really nice set of things, and this doesn't actually take that long to complete, but this is really step-by-step explaining the steps, what you need to do, how does it actually work, what are we actually showing, and explaining a lot of the insights around the SharePoint framework. And one point related on the tutorials, for all of these tutorials we do have video as well, so if you prefer to actually quickly have a look on the video to understand what is SharePoint framework all about, so building the first client-side web part, you can do that. We do have a SharePoint Patterns and Practices YouTube channel, which I'm going to show in a second, where we have, for example, these tutorials available. There's also additional stuff here, so there's basic information, and then we have also generic guidance. So obviously when you're doing stuff with the client-side development, you probably want to use some existing JavaScript libraries. You want to maybe refer third-party CSS styles and all of that, and these are essentially guidance and tutorials articles which are explaining how to do that, what does it mean, what are the considerations, and how to extend from there. And we keep on updating all of this guidance as we move along between the releases of the SharePoint framework. One thing to notice on the source as well. So this is the SharePoint framework, and obviously the main topic of the webcast is SharePoint framework, but there is actually already additional information here as well. As an example, related on SharePoint APIs, the webhook documentation and all of that is found from the dev.office.com/SharePoint. So you don't have to, you can't find this in the MSDN, it's actually relocated in here. One thing as a developer for SharePoint Framework, which you probably wanna or are interested, is the framework API reference, and that is actually located in the dev.office.com/SharePoint as well. So if I click the SharePoint Framework reference, we are able to see the actual TypeScript reference of the script libraries which we use whenever we do client-side development. As an example, use the SP web part base as the base class, and what does that? What are the functions? What are the interfaces? What does this do? And there's some additional description on this. And this is no doubt is going to be your helpful reference when you do develop client-side web part development. Good. That's pretty much what we have in the dev.office.com site. So. What else? Okay, this is the documentation, assets, resources. Easiest way to get there, one more time, I'm going to repeat this quite a few times during this webcast, is the dev.office.com/SharePoint. And from here, get started with SharePoint Framework, you'll land on the right location. Now, what if I would like to have more details around the code samples? Can I find code samples? How can I find additional stuff? So, the code samples, easiest way to actually find them is to use the SharePoint Patterns and Practices code search tool, which will show you all of the different code samples what we have available, for example, for SharePoint Framework platform. So SharePoint Patterns and Practices have more than 250 samples and reusable components. SharePoint Framework is one of the area where we are obviously investing quite heavily. And you're able to filter down using language, for example, React or Angular, those samples themselves. The samples are actually not located in the dev.office.com, but this is a great tool actually to find what samples are available. And the easiest way to access this tool is to go AKMS SPFX samples as the address, AKMS/SPFX samples. And you'll land on this page from where you can actually then start searching what's relevant for you. The actual source code itself and a lot of the other stuff is actually within the GitHub, which is understandable. Like mentioned when we started the webcast, actually Microsoft is the biggest company in GitHub, so we're sharing the most of our stuff as an open source in GitHub as well, with samples and open source products and services and all of that. If you go to the github.com/SharePoint, this is the easiest way to find all of the SharePoint related samples, SharePoint related repositories, which actually then contains additional samples. There's some reusable components, reusable stuff like the PnP PowerShell is a good example, fully open source PowerShell commandlets, which will extend or help you to manage your SharePoint online or on premises as an example. Now, for SharePoint Framework, there's kind of two main repositories, and that's the SP DevDocs, which is essentially what you're seeing in here. So SP DevDocs is the repo and repository behind of all of these individual articles. So if I go, for example, the overview as client-side web part, clicking edit in GitHub, I'm actually landing to the SharePoint organization SP DevDocs. So these individual articles are actually located within this repository in a certain structure. And you're able to contribute on these documents. You're able to even submit additional articles, and we'll help with that if you're interested in doing that. One of the key, let's say, advantages of this repo and key, let's say, use cases for this repo is also the issues list. So during the dev preview time of the SharePoint Framework, we've been having a really active discussion with community around open issues, questions, suggestions, using the issue list in the SP DevDocs repo. And this is an ongoing discussion. We can see that latest item, in quotes, an issue, is opened in 4 hours ago. Well, it might be an actual issue, or it might be a question, or it might be a bug, or it might be suggestion, and so on. So some of these are not actual issues. It's more an ongoing discussion with the community. And as an example, Waldek has been super active on this side, submitting issues and also helping others with the issues as well. Now, the other area, another really interesting repository in the GitHub is actually the SPDevFX web part. So this one is a repo for client-side web part samples and tutorial materials. So we actually have quite a lot of individual samples coming from the PMP core team, the PMP MVPs, or external community members. So there's a lot of active community members who are helping us to come up with this sample gallery. And the samples are grouped and defined, and they all have certain README files, they have images and everything else. First of all, they're grouped with the language they're using. So if you prefer to do your development in Angular, you can find all of the Angular samples by using the prefix of the folder. If you're looking into doing stuff in React, you can actually find React-based implementations here as well. And as an example, let's use that one, React multipage. This is one sample what Waldek has done and contributed. Each and every sample has a proper README file, which is essentially showing how the sample actually works. Typically, they could have a GIF animation, like in this case, so you are able to see that behavior by default. And all of the samples are also explaining what do I need to do to get started. So how do I actually get started with this sample? These are the things what I need to do. These are the things to follow to run the sample by yourself. And yeah.
There's also another interesting thing. So each sample includes a badge, a badge that shows how up to date the sample is. Because we realize that there is nothing worse if you would find the code that resembles what you are trying to achieve, only then to see that it's all and it doesn't really match the release that you would use by yourself. So that way we try to make it clear to you up front how up-to-date the sample is, and if it's too old, you can update it by yourself, or you can submit a request to have it updated by the author or someone else.
True. And especially at the time when we are recording the video, we do have samples which are from different drops. We're looking into getting all of the samples in the release candidate or GA level as soon as possible. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of samples, so it does take time to do that. There are some samples, as an example, the React search from Elio, which is already updated to the release candidate 0 status. So you can actually pull this down from GitHub, and it works with the latest version of the SharePoint framework, which is great. And we're working on that one across the other samples as well. Good. That's documents, that's references, that's samples, and the documentation itself. Okay, how would I actually use and how would I get additional information around the SharePoint framework? Well, probably one of the easiest ways to do that is to subscribe on the SharePoint /Office Dev Patterns and Practices YouTube channel. You can find actually this video from this channel as well, and there's a lot of other videos in this channel. If we scroll down, you can actually see that we have obviously the latest uploads, we have popular uploads, and surprise, surprise, SharePoint Framework tutorials are pretty popular. We do have monthly community calls, which are all getting recorded. We do have PnP Webcast, weekly webcasts, which we're releasing like this one. SharePoint Framework tutorials updated to the release candidate GA level as we move along. Sample demo videos on different SharePoint topics, not just the SharePoint framework, other topics as well, and then special interest group meeting recordings related on SharePoint framework or related on PnP Core and PowerShell. So a lot of videos which will help you step by step to get started on the SharePoint framework as well. So majority of this stuff is for SharePoint framework. Obviously, there's some videos and guidance for other SharePoint development topics in here as well. And maybe the last thing, or a few last things before we wrap up. The resources, Twitter /Office Dev, absolutely a great location, and well, a great social media channel to follow up on what's happening within the SharePoint framework and what are we actually releasing. So whenever we are releasing a blog post or new stuff, this is the easiest way to find all of the latest things what is available. Now, the Twitter might be slightly difficult to follow. It really depends how familiar you are with Twitter. But one option for all of the big announcements is the dev.office.com/blogs. So in the dev.office.com/blogs, whenever we get there, here we go, all of the developer-oriented announcements related on Office, related on SharePoint are getting out from here. Like as an example, SharePoint Webhook is now generally available. The SharePoint PMP Webcast around SharePoint Framework release candidates, it's on its way, and all of that. So if you follow up on this blog post section, you absolutely are up to date on what's happening. You always get the latest information, and you have the latest assets on your usage. And maybe one final topic is like, okay, I have feedback, something is missing, Microsoft, help me, or I have a suggestion. Right now we have two main topics and main ways of doing that. So we are having that discussion within the issue list in the SP Dev Docs in the GitHub. That's a really easy way to have an open discussion with engineering people, and we're following up on this one on a daily basis, so super active. The second dimension is that, hey, in general, I have a suggestion for SharePoint. I want to actually do this missing API. I need to do X and Y and Z, and that's where the user voice is a good channel as well. So this isn't around questions. This is more around, hey, I want to have a capability related on following thing, and those capabilities are being ranked in the user voice, and especially if the request is having a lot of votes. So let's open up the SharePoint Dev platform. If the item is having a lot of votes, it is actually being followed and triaged pretty detailed inside of our Microsoft processes as well. So we are absolutely looking into this as well, and we're looking into getting this process back up to date. So in the way that whenever you're submitting, we will absolutely acknowledge that. Thank you for your submission, and then obviously we'll follow up on the top votes. We'll follow up on the items which are increasing votes hectically, and we're looking into getting these issues queued up as well where we can. Some of them unfortunately are areas where we are not investing, which means that we don't have resources to fix that, but we're trying to be open and honest and transparent on the expectations in the future around here as well. I think that's it. Am I missing something, Waldek?
You actually don't. And the one thing that I wanted to say is that it feels like it is the first time ever that even before we hit GA with SPFX, we have so many things in place that probably the only thing that you lack is time to get through all of them.
True.
And there's a chance that whatever you're trying to achieve, that we wrote about it, talked about it, we have sample for it. So I would definitely encourage everybody to have a look at the stuff that we got in place to help you onboard the SPFX. And if there is something that we haven't done yet, let us know, reach out, because we'd love to help you.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
We'd love to help you get effective with SPFX and build cool stuff.
Yes, be successful as a SharePoint developer in the future as well. So, and that's essentially what we in the Microsoft side, we want you to succeed. And the only way we can help you to succeed is that you give us the feedback. If something is missing, let us know and we'll address that. There is a lot of samples and assets already out there, so probably want to double check those first, and then if those are missing, just reach out and let us know, and we'll absolutely address any gaps what's out there. And if you have any feedback on the let's say the quality of the existing assets or samples or documentation, please let us know. The easiest way for us to address those gaps is by us knowing the issue and getting a feedback process. Obviously, we want to have that feedback to be constructive. So whenever you have feedback, give us also suggestions around, hey, this is how we could actually address that. And we'll try to follow up on that as fast as possible. So, as a summary of the things what we went through, we're not going to actually walk through one by one in the slide, but this is a slide, and the slides are available for you to download as well in the video notes. It has all of the links to all of the assets and things what we went through during the demo section. So documentation, tutorials, samples, code, videos, and webcast, and all of that. But I think that's it pretty much. We went through a lot of stuff, and then I'm noticing my mistake on this slide. It is actually 2017. It's not 2016. But, yeah.
Right.
But anyway, we went through a lot of stuff, a lot of assets, and hopefully, please do take some time to learn the new ways of doing stuff. Take the time to have a look on the assets what we have. Take time to go through the tutorials, and trust me, I'm a really good example, and Waldek as well. We come from a farm solution background. I've started my SharePoint real development back in 2006 with a SharePoint Framework farm solution development. And we had no documentation whatsoever. What is a feature framework? What is a farm solution? And so we needed to figure out all of that by ourselves from the field. Now with SharePoint Framework, we have a lot of assets, a lot of material, a lot of samples, a lot of videos available for you to adapt the new ways of doing stuff. And like mentioned, if something is missing, let us know. That's a really key point. Anything else, kind of a final points from your side, Waldek?
Well, yeah, so be curious and dare to ask, right? Because that's the only way for you to learn.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But excellent. That sums up this webcast. We'll come up with a maybe more technical webcast. Well, absolutely, more technical webcast in the future. But this is actually a pretty good webcast to go through what we have and how to get started with SharePoint Framework. And please let us know your feedback for the future as well. But thanks for watching, and see you guys later.
Bye.